Did you know that more than 50% of men have male pattern hair loss by the age of 50, and 50% of women will experience noticeable hair loss at some point in their lifetime? This can drastically affect not only your confidence, but your self-esteem, dating life, and so much more. Today, we're going to be speaking with Matt from the YouTube channel MattDominance. He is not only a hair loss expert who helps hundreds of people navigate their hair loss journey and find reputable hair transplant doctors around the world, but he is someone who has lived it himself and experienced the real transformation that a full head of hair can give you. Matt has undergone 2 hair transplant surgeries, tried all of the natural and pharmaceutical remedies, and takes a deeper, more scientific approach to understanding hair loss. And he's here to answer all of our burning questions right now. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Gabby. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being on my channel today.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I'm really pumped and thrilled to share what I have to say, and I hope your audience and viewers will appreciate what I have to share with you guys today.
Tell us a little bit about your experience with hair loss. At what age did you notice that your hair was thinning, and how did it progress throughout the years?
Well, I think it was like 17 or 18 years old when I first started, and it really made me like insecure, and the whole obsession with my hair started. Okay, I started comparing my hair to others, to my peers with no hair loss at the time, and it started restricting my social and dating life and occupying my mind like 24/7. For example, I wasn't able to like just come to a party without like visiting the restroom first to check how my hair looked, you know, whether the wind didn't damage it on the way there or things like that. And if I didn't check it first, I just didn't feel well for the whole time, okay? So this made me kind of experiment with many haircuts, which would make my balding look less obvious. And mentally, I was also feeling like too tough, or yeah, I was also like, it was stupid, of course, but I felt like too tough to talk about it to somebody and open up about it as a teenage guy, which is actually the first thing you should do when you want others to support you and maybe even help you find a solution faster. Now, looking back, I wish I had gone through this temporary discomfort of opening up about it, you know, because by doing that, others may actually help you connect with somebody who either has the same issue or had the same issue and solved it, or somebody like a dermatologist or trichologist who can put you on the right treatment and help you avoid further hair loss. Okay, so that was my story pretty much until I was like 24, and yeah, that was also the time when I started first learning about hair transplants. I think it was like when I was like 23, 24. Yeah.
I guess it's really hard because as a woman, we definitely feel this attachment to our hair, but it's also okay for us to care about how we look. It's okay for us to get Botox and fillers, even though most people hide it, it's still acceptable. But as a man, if you care about how you look, then you're gay or you're self-obsessed or this, yeah, right? But whereas women still judge men for not having hair. Like I dated a guy for several years who was bald on top, and it was talked about all the time, and there was always comments about it. There's like a huge stigma towards it, but you're almost not allowed to care as a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a double, like everywhere you are being attacked as a guy. You're caring about your hair, you are being laughed at. And the opposite, if you just don't care about your hair, you are also being laughed at somebody who, who doesn't look the way he could maybe, and he should maybe care about his look better and look better as a guy to become more attractive to women as well. So it's never like what's good, it's very hard for a guy. So it's really good to, choose the side and really stick to the side. Either I don't care at all and I really live it, or I care and I really live that, and I also present myself like, yeah, I care because it's important. Yeah.
So when did you decide to embark on your hair transplant surgery? How many times have you had it done? Where did you get it done? And how was that experience for you?
Well, as I said, I started informing myself about hair transplants when I was like 24, and I was about to become 25 when I got my first first one, and I was 27 when I got my next one. The first one was the major one, which basically restored the hairline as it is right now and the frontal third here. And the second one was just a very minor procedure. It was just 1,000 grafts. And the second one was designed to add more density to my mid scalp zone, to the mid zone here. Okay, so that's, and now I'm basically just managing my hair loss and hoping that the hair loss will not progress as fast, and doing everything I can to, you know, prevent that, and enjoying my hair.
So you know that I got my hair transplant done about 7-8 weeks ago, and I've been noticing that I have like a lot of shock loss now, and I don't even really see any follicles growing. Was that your experience as well? Like, did you do it the first time and then think like, oh shoot, like this isn't gonna work? What did I get myself into? What a waste of money. Or did you always trust in the process? Like, when did you start seeing that hair growing in?
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean, because for some people it must be really like frustrating, and they kind of asking if they made a good decision. But if you inform yourself about hair transplants enough, you know what's coming and when the grow is supposed to come, and you are just fine. You know, I just trusted in the process. Of course, I didn't try to like boost my hair growth. Although I used some oils, but these oils were not meant to boost the hair growth during these 2, second and third months of shock loss, but they were meant to like help my skin to heal and get rid of redness. I used them for my donor area and for the recipient area where the hair had been implanted. But I was just, I was expecting the growth to come around the 4th month, which was also the case. And from the 4th month, it just starts, and it really starts growing really nice until I think by the 6th and 7th month, you really can observe like a nice improvement already. But 12 months usually is the time where you can really see the full result based on where the hair had been implanted. If it's the crown area, the vertex region, it's like 18 months, even up to 2 years until the full result will appear.
It takes a lot of patience, eh? It's like a game of patience and also confidence.
Exactly.
To know it's going to happen.
Based on where the hair will be implanted, it may be easier or harder to mask with some fibers or concealers. If it's on a very obvious spot, then you got to be patient. It's not going to look good during the shock loss phase. And even if you try to mask it somewhere on the temples here, it's going to look obvious. People will notice. So it's better to just wait until it really looks good. Maybe cover it up with a hat during the shock loss phase, and then it's going to be fine.
So do you find that having had a hair transplant and having such a beautiful full head of hair now, has it impacted your life in terms of like your professional life, moving up the professional ladder as a man? Has it impacted the way that women look at you, your dating life and personal life? Do you find that there's been like a big connection between doing this surgery and like your overall happiness?
Yeah, definitely. Especially if people like haven't seen me in a long while, they are like, wow, like you look different, or you look younger, there is something different about you. And they of course can't really tell it was a hair transplant right off the bat, but since it has such an impact on the whole like appearance of your face, people do notice that something changed about you. My hair transplant gave me a pretty good boost in my dating life, I have to admit, be it online or offline. Online because of just you look just better in the pictures, in the photos, compared to how you looked before, and you look younger as well and more charismatic, in fact. And I really believe that some people do need hair to be more charismatic, especially like men. I mean, some lucky guys may not need it, but I certainly needed it, so I experienced a good boost. And women also respond to me like different compared to before when I meet them like face to face, and I feel like they appear to be at least like interested in me initially. Anytime I like strike up a conversation with them as well. Before it was more like social interest, it wasn't that flirtatious interest, if you know what I mean. So that's something I can feel as well. And as far as getting ahead in life, I don't think having full head of hair as a man is necessary to get ahead in life. I mean, look at Jeff Bezos, for example. But, I think a man has to come into a really good place first when he feels the most secure and most confident within himself. And from there starts executing upon his goals and dreams. And to come to this place as a hair loss sufferer, for somebody maybe by shaving his head and forgetting about hair loss that way. For another guy, it may be by getting a transplant or a hair system. So no matter what that thing is that gives you that confidence or security for yourself as a guy or as a girl, do that thing and you will be able to get ahead in life easier. That's my answer to that.
I have a psychology degree, and there's a study that was done that said that typically men that are taller than an average person, tend to move up the corporate ladder faster, or they can become more successful faster than a man who is shorter. And sometimes I wonder if it's like correlation equals causation. Like, does the man being tall equate to promotions, or is it the fact that the man who's taller is more confident, is more dominant, is more assertive, and then that leads to escalating the corporate ladder more? And I think that's the same as well with women. I find that when women have fine hair or thinner hair, I think there's a direct correlation with how they behave. So it's not necessarily even maybe that men find women with thicker hair more sexy. They might find a woman who acts sexier to be more sexy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you feel like it made you kind of act differently before, like when you were talking to guys and interacting with men?
I found like with certain things, like if like before I was married and I was in like the dating scene, if a man like ran his hands through my hair, I would be like, you know what I mean? Like, don't do that. And so, or if my hair is wet, like if I'm on the beach and I'm swimming and I couldn't cover it with certain products, and then when my hair is wet, it looks so fine, and then you can really see the scalp, and then I wouldn't act as confident. I guess I would retract a bit, which then makes you seem, it's not that you need to be so assertive, but you do need to have a sense of your own confidence to come off, in my opinion, to men as sexier. So I do think that it did correlate with my behavior for sure. What are the top things that you wish that you knew before getting a hair transplant?
I would say like maybe 5 things. Number 1, focus on managing your hair loss first and become a stable hair loss case before you're undergoing a hair transplant, because you don't want to get a hair transplant without having your current hair loss under control. And based on your hair loss diagnosis, you have to pick the appropriate treatments, of course. For most men suffering from male pattern baldness, it's minoxidil 5% and finasteride 1 milligram oral. And for female pattern baldness, it's minoxidil 2% and maybe low-level laser therapy in conjunction with additional supplementation of biotin, trace minerals if required, or even PRP. So that would be like the first important thing that somebody who wants to get a hair transplant should know about and should do. The second thing would be, don't just blindly trust any doctor and the words he promises you. Always ask like key questions about doctor's past experience and experience of his staff, like how many procedures is he doing on a weekly basis, how involved is he going to be in your procedure as far as graft harvesting, graft sorting, incision making on your recipient area, and the implantation itself. Because there are many physicians or plastic surgeons offering hair transplants nowadays, but in reality hair transplant makes up for 10% of their practice, which isn't as good as other hair transplant surgeons who are maybe doing transplants 100% of the time and are the true experts in this field. And I think hair transplants are pretty complex, and that's why, as a general rule, with only a few exceptions, I'd rather trust a physician who is heavily specialized in hair transplants instead of being like a broadly specialized plastic surgeon. Okay, so the third thing, I would say not everybody is meant to get a hair transplant, and there are always going to be a great, like superb to average to poor hair transplant candidates, guys and women as well. And this is especially the case by men who need to restore like larger balding areas compared to women on average. Some men have only average hair follicle density on the back of their head, so logically they won't be able to achieve such dense looking result compared to patients with exceptionally high hair follicle density. And that's why even the best doctor in the world is always limited by the patient's hair properties or his hair genetics, if you will, and based on these limitations he has to choose the best strategy for patients' hair transplant accordingly in order to achieve the best illusion of fullness, density, and the natural look overall. And the last two things maybe will be like FUE and FUT. You are probably familiar with these terms, follicular unit extraction and follicular unit strip surgery. It's called also FUSS sometimes. So these are both viable options for hair restoration also in 2020, and they will still be. One or the other can be better utilized for different patient based on his donor area characteristics or limitations, as I said before, as well as limitations overall. So they are like two complements which both can yield like great results. And number 5, there is no like scar-free hair transplant. FUT and FUE both leave some marks. By the FUT, the strip surgery, it's a linear scar across your donor area, across the back of your head. And by FUE, follicular unit extraction, you get like multiple small dots, especially if patients then shave their back of the head. They will notice that. I mean, if you let the hair grow longer, it's obviously not as visible, but if you shave it, then you can see these small dots even after FUE.
After I spoke about my hair loss online, I was getting a lot of comments from like women all over the world, especially about the one with that one video that went quite viral. It has about 300,000 views. And I was getting a lot of questions, actually a lot of statements regarding you need to use garlic, you need to use castor oil. Castor oil saved my hairline and all of this stuff. Do you think, I'm a huge skeptic when it comes to natural remedies. Have you come across anything natural that you think really does prevent hair loss or keeps the hair on your head or even regrows hair that has been lost before?
Okay, good question.
You guys are just as curious as I am to know what Matt thinks about all of those natural hair hacks online. Then you're just gonna have to tune in a few days for part 2 of this series. In the meantime, definitely head over to MattDominance, subscribe to his YouTube channel. It is an amazing resource for every man and woman who is suffering from hair loss right now. Head on over there, check it out. I will put it in the description box and in the comments section. I'll see you in a few days for part 2. Stay tuned.